Hello, thank you for joining us today in our studies of 2 Samuel. Today we're in 2 Samuel chapter 16. And as we look at the lessons from chapter 16, it's one of those chapters where you actually have to remember what's already been stated and also look forward a bit to what is still to come in order to truly appreciate a number of things that are being said here in this chapter. So let's go through and look at some of the lessons and try to piece some things together that will help us get a better view of exactly what transpires here in this chapter. I want to begin with the starting event of the chapter because here you have Mephibosheth's servant Ziba. And Ziba is going to be the one that David has given charge over Mephibosheth and to help him. Remember, Mephibosheth is Jonathan's son. And he has been lame from the time he was a child because of an accident that took place. He's lame in his feet. He cannot walk. He cannot get around the way that one normally would. And so Ziba and his sons have been those who have been taking care of the fields of Mephibosheth and all of those things in order to provide him an income and in order to take care of him. Well, as David leaves Jerusalem, here comes Ziba with a couple of saddled donkeys. The donkeys are loaded down with goods, with food for David and for those that are with him. And David asks Ziba where Mephibosheth is. And Ziba is going to say that Mephibosheth has decided to remain in Jerusalem because he believes that now that Absalom is there, the kingdom will be restored to him. In other words, Mephibosheth is taking advantage of the situation to try to put himself into a place of power. David is going to respond by giving Ziba all of Mephibosheth's land and everything that belongs to him that he had previously given to Mephibosheth. But the reality is, if you move forward into chapters 19 and 20 of 2 Samuel, you find that once David comes back into Jerusalem, Mephibosheth is going to tell him that's not what he had said and what he had intended at all, that he had sent Ziba with the donkeys in order to lay things out and to express his regrets for not being able to come, but that he was forever the servant of David for the kindness that David had shown to him, and that he always considered David his king. Ziba here is going to lie. Ziba here is going to try to take advantage of a lame man's inability to travel well. And it seems to be the fact that Mephibosheth thought he would only slow David down, and so he decides to just ride it out in Jerusalem to the best of his ability. Ziba is going to take advantage of that to prey on the emotions of David. And remember that Ziba had once been Saul's servant, and there's going to be kind of this theme here of those that had once served Saul. We're going to see it with Ziba here. We're going to see it with Shimei in just a moment. But Ziba's lie is eventually going to be found out. And one of the things that we need to remember is that as tempting as lies can be, and as promising as telling a lie could be as far as turning things to our advantage, eventually they are found out. And the ends always wind up being worse than what the promise was to start with. So we see Ziba giving this lie. But as you drop down into verses 5 and following, you have Shimei. And Shimei is going to be one who was of the family of the house of Saul. He is not one of Saul's immediate descendants, but he is of Saul's family. And as David is traveling through this area, he has to go by Shimei's house. And Shimei comes out and he begins cursing and he begins throwing stones and he begins just making himself an all-out nuisance toward David and toward those that are with him as they travel on. As a matter of fact, it's to the point that Abishai, the brother of Joab, says, "Would you please just give me the order so that I could go cut off his head and be done with it?" And David says, "No." David says, "Obviously, the Lord has sent him, and obviously, I have deserved this, so we're just going to take it." And David does. David just keeps on moving. David is able to take the curses. David is able to take the hardships and the rotten words and everything else that are being thrown at him, partly because some of which he knows are true, but also because taking it out on Shimei is not going to fix anything. You know, there are some people that cannot stand anything bad being spoken about them in any place at any time. And then there are those who know how to handle even those who are verbally being rude and abusive and things of that nature, as Shimei is here. He's not just simply saying to David that he was wrong, he is cursing him out up one side and down the other. And yet David, as the old saying goes, takes it like a man. And instead of responding in kind, or instead of utilizing the power that he has to destroy this individual, he takes it. And he continues down the road. Shimei is going to eventually use up his ammunition as it is. And there is going to come the time where he's done and he leaves. But David does not respond in kind. There is a lesson there for us in how we handle those who are throwing stones, whether literally or figuratively, but also throwing words. We need to be those who are careful about how we respond, because it's easy to get caught up in the emotion of how we'd like to respond. But there's a better way to respond. Then in the third place, we have to look back a little bit. You come at the end of the chapter to Ahithophel's advice, and how Ahithophel is going to advise Absalom to show his power to the people of Israel by going into David's concubines on the roof of the palace in front of everybody to see. And yet one of the things that we need to understand with this is that it certainly wasn't right as far as that goes. Certainly was a very vulgar action for Absalom to undertake. But it also was the fulfillment of a prophecy that God had made back in 2 Samuel chapter 12. When dealing with the punishment in the aftermath of the sin with Bathsheba in verses 11 and 12, God is going to state that this is going to happen. And it's going to be a part of the fact that David took another man's wife. And God says another man's wife is going, or another man is going to take your wives. And that is exactly what's going to happen here. And we see it play out in chapter 16. So there's a number of things that we can look at, both looking forward in Mephibosheth's case, looking back in Absalom's case, but also looking at the present in Shimei's case, to see lessons that we learn, whether it's dealing with people in when they're speaking bad about us, when they're cursing us, whether it's dealing with people who've lied to us, or dealing with people who are striving to destroy us. How do we respond and what do we do? There are a number of lessons to learn in 2 Samuel 16, and I hope that these have been beneficial to you. Next time we will come back and we will continue looking at the life of David with 2 Samuel chapter 17. And I hope that you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.